So what ends up happening is that when we're given a unit that we're starting with and we're trying to get to a unit that doesn't get us to the answer in one actual step, we have to do more than one step. And so we have our starting units just like we did yesterday, and we need to try to cancel them out. And then we might have something that we call a linking unit that we're going to have to cancel out. And then we're going to end up with an ending unit, which will give us an answer in the ending unit. Okay. Now, the issue here is that sometimes, like I said, there's no way to get from like centimeters to, I got it, thank you. There's from centimeters to like miles within just one step. So we just have to, I'm just stalling because I screwed up my life. Okay, so there. Now, the best way to do this, I think, is to go through and practice. And so the best way to practice this is to work through this with me together, and probably not with our phones. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first example, which is going to be converting centimeters to feetometers. And so centimeters and feet, from my best estimation, is a length style measurement. And if it's a length style measurement, that means that when I'm looking at this sheet here, I don't need to concern myself with the volume or the mass columns. I only need to concern myself with the middle column, which is length, right? So now I have to figure out how I'm going to go from centimeters to get to feet, okay? So if I'm going to go from centimeters to feet, when I set this up, my conversion factor, I can't go centimeters directly to feet. I'm going to go, I'm going to go from centimeters to something to feet, okay? And so what I have to do is figure out what's going to link those two things together. So if I'm looking at this relationship here, or the set of relationships here, I see 1 inch is equal to 2.540 centimeters. And then the next time I see inches, I see that it's down in the next table, and it's 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Those are the only times that inches are mentioned, which means that in this problem, my linking factor is going to be the inch. So the relationship is 2.540 centimeters is equal to 1 inch, and 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. Okay. So when I go to set the problem up, everything is still the same. I'm going to take the 125.6 centimeters, put it over 1, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and set my problem up with 2 steps because I have 2 conversion factors. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my units are set up so that they can cancel out. So if I have centimeters on top in my given, I need to have centimeters on the bottom. And if centimeters are equal to inches, I'm going to put inches on the top. And if I have inches on the top, I'm going to put inches on the bottom. And I'm going to end up with feet. And then I'm going to go back and fill in my values. So here I have 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Those are the same distance. And I'm going to have 1 inch is equal to 2.540 centimeters. And so just like we did yesterday, I'm going to multiply straight across. And so I have 125.6 over 2.54 times 12, which is 30.48. And from there, I'm going to simplify. And when I simplify that, I get something like 4.12, and we'll say feet. And I can go back and check and see that centimeters cancels out and inches cancels out, and I'm left with a unit of feet. So far, so good? Hopefully that's not too bad. And again, I'm using the color coding here just so that my eye can be visually trained to see when things cancel out. So if I have something on top and something on the bottom, the same unit, that means I can cancel it out. Next one. Here I have something called MMHGs and KPAs. Now, you may not be familiar with MMHGs, millimeters of mercury, or KPA, kilopascal, but I can tell you that these are measurements of pressure. Okay, so these are measurements of pressure. And so what that means, in case you're like kind of like pressure, what does that mean? So what that means is that if you go fill up a bike tire or a car tire, you fill it up to a certain number or value, and that usually like at the gas station or even at home would be like PSI. Like most car tires are filled up to like 32 to 35 PSI. That's pounds per square inch. Millimeters of mercury and KPA is another measure of that exact same thing. So in theory, if you're in Europe, you could be filling up your cars in KPA, which is what they do, I think. I don't know. But because I know it's a unit of pressure, when I'm looking at my Charty chart down here, in the lower left-hand corner is where I have units of pressure. You see that? So that's already set up for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these up so I have MMHG, and I'm trying to get to KPA. And the thing that links them together is something called the ATM, which is the atmosphere. And then I'm going to go ahead and show how they're the same or equal to each other. According to my chart, I have 760 millimeters of mercury is equal to 1 atmosphere or ATM. And 1 atmosphere or ATM is equal to 101.3 kPa. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and fill in what I can. So I'm going to take my given, which I always do, and put it over 1, 895 millimeters of mercury over 1. And because I have 2 conversion factors, I have 2 steps. So I'm going to set this up so I have green millimeters of mercury on the bottom to cancel out, and blue ATMs on top. And then I'm going to put blue ATMs on the bottom to cancel out, and purple KPA on the top. Then I'm going to go back and fill in my values. And according to my relationships, 101.3 kPa is equal to 1 ATM. 1 ATM is equal to 760 millimeters of mercury. Then I'm going to go and calculate. So 895 times 101.3 gives me something like 90,663.5 over 760. I'm going to simplify. And that gives me a value of 119 point, let's say, 29er, and that's going to be kPa. So my units for millimeters of mercury and ATM cancel out, and I'm left with kPa, and I've done my math. Yay. Does this seem significantly more difficult than what we were talking about doing yesterday? Or just adding another step? The hard part here, I think, is trying to figure out what units to use. That's the complicated part. So, did I go too fast? Somebody still copying? Sorry. So here we have, in our next problem, we have pints, and we have gallons. Oops, and we have gallons. What unit of measure is pints and gallons? Length, mass, or volume? Pardon? Volume, right? So in this one, I have volume, and so that means, wrong paper. So that means I need to be looking in the volume column here. Okay? So here's what I'm going to have you do quietly amongst yourself inside your head. If we have pints and gallons, take a second and look at your chart and try to decide what the other unit is going to be. So take a look at this sheet right here that you have and try to figure out what the unit will be that will link pints and gallons together. Somebody want to share what links pints and gallons together? Yes. You are correct. Quarts is what links them together. So, according to the relationship, 1 quart is equal to 2 pints, and 4 quarts is equal to 1 gallon. So what I want you to do right now is set this problem up. So wandering around, I saw a lot of people were to get to this point here. They were looks like they had this kind of figured out. And so we have pints on top, pints on bottom, quarts on top, quarts on the bottom, gallons on top. And then when we multiply across, you get 860 over 8, which when we simplify that, it ends up being like 107.5. Let's say 0 gallons. And going back and checking, we see that pints cancel out, quarts cancel out, and we're left with gallons. Hopefully. All right. To try to be consistent with having like 2 decimals for everything, but the calculator gave you 107.5, totally fine. All right. Problem number 4. You are on your own. I'll give you a little bit of, we're going to convert miles. We're going to convert miles to meters. We know that is a length measurement. And I can tell you that there is at least 2 ways to do this problem. At least 2 ways. All right, so a lot of you have figured out how to do this one or got a little bit of direction on how to do this one. So I'm going to do it your way, and then I'm going to do it my way because there's 2 different ways to do this problem. So many people said that, well, we have 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And then we said, many of you said 3.281 feet equals 1 meter. So a lot of you set your problem up like that. So you had 80 miles. And you were setting it up to look like this. And when you simplified that out, you got something like this. Okay. Now, there is another way to do this exact same problem. Exactly the same. And I'm going to show you that right now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you could take 80 miles and go 1 mile is equal to 1.609 kilometers, and 1 kilometer is equal to something you're supposed to memorize, 1,000 meters. And when you do that, you get and both of these are correct. But they're close, but they're not the same. And that's okay. The reason why they're close but not the same is because we use different conversion factors, but they're still getting at the same length, and that's going to be okay, and we'll deal with that in a later part of this unit. Yes, ma'am.
I used the first conversion factor with like feet,
Mhm.
and I got the right number, except I got 0.374. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Close enough. Close enough for government work. All right, so one more. Uno más. On your note packet, you'll see that this has got 3 conversion factors. This is a you do, you show me, you get there, I believe in you. So wandering around, I saw a couple people doing it a couple different ways, and there's at least 3 different ways I can do this problem. But many of you decided that you were going to use 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet, and 1 feet 1 feet is equal to 12 inches, and 1 inch is equal to 2.540 centimeters. Okay, so when you set this problem up, we're going to take 5 centimeters. Not 5 centimeters, that's crazy talk. 5 miles. And convert that to feet. And convert feet to inches. And convert inches to centimeters. And if we do that way, you get something like 804,672 centimeters. Okay. There is another way to do this problem, and I'm going to do that one real quick here once so you can see it. That's not right. Both of these are correct as long as you show your work. That's the critical thing here. So hopefully you feel like you kind of feel okay with this. If you don't, we'll keep working on it. There's no homework this weekend.
Grace, if you remind me, I was just asking.